Sounds good.
I love
Thank
that
you.
sound. It's always so nice.
Well,
Awesome.
I was telling my friend yesterday, it's good that they get consent for recording. Like, are you aware that you're being recorded? Let's do it, Joe.
All right. Well, welcome everyone near and far to our webinar today. The Mortgage Collaborative TMC Connect in partnership with Social Coach together, coming at you live this wonderful Tuesday afternoon here in sunny Southern California. And how's it going over there, Gabby? Sunny, cloudy, where are we at?
Okay, it's Ohio, so it's sunny and it's cloudy and it's kind of cold when the breeze hits you, but otherwise it's really hot. So if that makes sense, that's
Sounds
what we're
like the
dealing with
Midwest.
today.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Well, really excited to be here with everybody today. We're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to both mine and Gabby's hearts. We had a lot of fun conversations about this and happy to share this with you today. We're going to be talking all about scaling your social media presence. I know a lot of mortgage companies are in on social media today or knowing that they want to get themselves there. So there's a matter of getting started. And then there's a matter of taking that little tiny seed of a social media presence that maybe your company has and talking about how do we get that bigger and broader and have more impact in a world that is constantly changing. We're constantly being bombarded with a bunch of different messages on what you need to do this right now to 10x your business on social media. And so we're going to cut through a lot of that fluff today and hopefully deliver to you some messages that can help you grow your company's brand and as well as help your loan officers attack their sphere of influence and get more business. So here we go. Let's just dive right in.
Let's do
So
it.
first thing I wanted to just kind of chat about is why is social media important for your company? So most likely, more than not, you guys are already aware of everything, all the reasons why you should be on social media, or else maybe you wouldn't be here. But I thought it was interesting. I got some new statistics here, or we got some new statistics on the different platforms and their user base. So, I think there's been a lot of interest in on some of the newer platforms, but these old standbys, guys, I'm telling you, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, they are monsters still. You look at the average monthly, and this is actually active monthly users, right? So this isn't like the total user base. This is on an active monthly basis. So 2.85 billion people are on Facebook every single month. That is insanity, right? Instagram, 1 billion, and it kind of goes off from there. These are platforms that consistently deliver results. If you're looking for the biggest audience, obviously you're going to lean towards Facebook. If you're looking for a more niched or nuanced audience, you're going to zero down into the Twitter. I've got two more bags of statistics here as it relates to the user bases here. Interesting to see this. I was actually kind of surprised, and I know, Gabby, your thoughts here, but Facebook, not a big surprise that the average age is 40. I think that, for a platform that was started in 2004 for a bunch of college students who are now entering their 40th year of life, this makes perfect sense, right? And I think it's scaled more towards grandmas and aunts and uncles as well. So definitely a good platform if you're a mortgage lender to be thinking about how do I hit some of those more mature demographics, maybe our move ups and those who are moving up even further or maybe even downsizing. And then we've got Instagram, where it's a lot of your Gen Zs, millennials, really hanging out there, and a lot of first-time home buyers. Probably your largest, as we look at a lot of the data, your largest base of potential home buyers and impressionable home buyers are on Instagram today. And I love LinkedIn personally for my use, and I know, Gabby, you do too.
Oh, yeah.
Average age of 30. I was surprised to hear that. I kind of thought maybe it would be a little bit older. But one great thing about LinkedIn is you can tell if they're employed or not. So you don't have to worry about that verification of employment as much because you already know they're working. And then Twitter, it's young, it's snarky. Tiptoe carefully in that world to live in. If you're not prepared for it, you will get eaten alive. But if you are somebody who thrives in the constant communication world and likes to be a little nuanced or fun, that might be a good world for you. But Gabby, any of these kind of stick out to you?
Yeah, so I was going to mention, I know we're going to dive a little more into it later in the presentation, but anecdotally, Facebook is, like you said, it's aunts and uncles and grandmas. When you have younger users on Facebook, it's mostly out of obligation to keep in touch with their family, and to, share memes, and but it's not like a serious platform for them where they do the majority of their scrolling, as in, the younger audiences like Gen Z and younger millennials. Instagram's perfect for that, but we'll talk a little more about catering your content specifically to each platform. It's easiest to cross post against everything and just get everything out in front of everyone without doing too many tweaks. But Instagram's definitely more visually stimulating. You can't link to things in Instagram. You have to have a separate link in bio prompt to try to get people back to your profile and then clicking into a link from there. So if you're trying to get registrations for an event or something, know that you might not get a ton of clicks, but you are going to get a lot of views on Instagram. And then for LinkedIn, like you said, it's more of the professional crowd. So if you're trying to get people that have good professional experience and take their job seriously and they want to connect professionally, that's the place to be. But you might not necessarily get people who are casually scrolling through LinkedIn. At least I do, but I also know that I'm kind of a little different than other people in my age demographic. And then
Yeah.
Twitter is in short, it is shouting in a very crowded room full of other people who are also shouting. And you just have to hope that someone's going to walk by at the right time in order to catch something that you're saying. So all of those are just the first impressions for me when it comes to looking at any and all of those platforms.
I love it. You're spot on there. Shouting in a crowded room. I think that's the best description of Twitter I've ever heard. So very, very nice there. We've got this kind of eye chart here. And at the end of this deck here, I've got a bunch of links, and we'll get those sent out to everyone who's registered here, so you can dive more into this data. But data is super important for you as marketers or executives at mortgage companies who are looking to scale your business on social, take your marketing serious online. This is where you kind of can really figure out who do you want to target and how are you going to attack them specifically. And attack sounds like a crazy word, but I mean that in the nicest way, a little aggressive, excuse me. So target, maybe target even sounds kind of bad. I don't even know what we said, but you
want
get
to
what I'm saying.
bond with, you want to get their attention.
Bond with, yes, there you go. So these are, here's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the link that we'll have for you actually does have the others as well. But I think, when I look at particularly, there are age demographics here, and you look at like Facebook. I mean, look at these numbers here. Surprisingly enough, 30 to 49 is your highest use of individuals here on Facebook, and then Instagram, we're looking at 18 to 29, right? And so this is where your biggest bang for your buck is. So like if you're looking for those stronger move ups, or looking to do reverse mortgages, or 55 plus, narrowing down on those, definitely stick your marketing to Facebook. If you want to have more of your first time home buyer specific type targeting, Instagram is totally your jam there, right? And then when we look at income, that obviously kind of reflects again back to the age range until you get to LinkedIn, where the demographics of your income do not correlate specifically to the age range, but you definitely find some higher earners. Look at this. The biggest base is this over $75,000 a year on LinkedIn. That's 50% of all their users. Whereas on Facebook, look at this, the biggest one is in that 30 to 50,000. So it's really interesting to see these, and they can help inform a lot of decisions. What do you think, Gabby?
Yeah, I was just pulling up if you've heard of marketing personas, that looking at a chart like this is helpful. And for me, I'm more of a creative, right, brained kind of person, so I would want to see the story out of this data, and like who exactly I would be reaching and why I would be talking to them and what kind of conversation you would be having with them. If you go to a family reunion, you're not going to have the same conversation with your aunts and uncles or even your grandparents as you would maybe your cousins who are the same age, and you can kind of bro out with them a little bit more. So definitely look at the data and interpret it, but it's even helpful for me, especially to just kind of transform it into a story later.
I love that. And that's not something we covered today, but I think it's really important. And Gabby hit on something that's really amazing resource for marketers is creating personas for your buyers. Who are your typical buyers? Where do they sit? So, figure it out, sit down, get a picture of your average Facebook user that you want to target, name them, put their income, where do they live, what are their characteristics, what do they like. You really go to town on who is this targeted person and use the data to inform how you kind of segment them out. But use those in talking. So you've been saying, okay, Aunt Susan is my my target Facebook user, right? So like, what does Aunt Susan like to do? Where does she live? What's her motivation for buying a house or selling or refining? And then when you're talking about what's your marketing plan going to be for Facebook, you can say, all right, well, what would Aunt Susan like, right? Like, and you can use those marketing personas really heavily here, and that will help you as you get more. As you scale that social media presence, you use those personas to help you really hone in that marketing message. So very good thoughts there, Gabby.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So experimentation. So this is something, I think when we talk about these personas and we talk about these different markets and the different social media channels that you can have, there is definitely one of the things that you're going to want to do is start experimenting, because a lot of you, I looked at a lot of, I've looked through pretty much every TMC member's social media profiles recently. There's over 220 members out there, our member clients, and I've been browsing through trying to see where everybody's at, and looking through it. There are several of you out there that are doing really, really well, but a lot of you are kind of at that very early stage of your presence on social media. And as you start to develop and want to expand that presence, what you're going to want to do is start testing out different methodologies that you have. And we kind of lay out 3 different types of experiments you can go through here, but this is by no means a limiting factor for you to experiment. But one of the first things is your brand message. Who are you as a company, and what do you want your messaging? What I mean by that is your tone of voice. Like, are you friendly? Are you funny? Are you serious? Are you educational? Like, what is the forefront of your company's brand? And what's cool about experimenting is that you get to decide this on a daily basis if you want. There's a major short-term memory loss on social media. People forget you instantaneously unless you're being really consistent with it. So you can try out different messaging to see what really works. And so, with experimentation, like, let's think back to our 7th grade math or science classes. You create a hypothesis. So I think that people really want to hear from us from an educational standpoint. Okay, cool. So I'm going to throw out maybe 5 posts this week. They're all going to be educational. And we're going to have this tone of voice that is really, we're the experts in the field. We understand what's going on here. And here's the reason to believe me for this, right? And I'm going to put out all this education material and see how it works. And then we're going to collect those results, and we're going to see, okay, how did my posts on Monday through Friday go? This is how many likes we got. This is how many comments we got. Here's any DMs we received, what have you, right? So collect that data and say, all right, how did this brand message work on educational? Now, maybe 2 weeks later, a month later, whatever you decide your time frame is, let's try out a different one. Let's try out funny, and let's do some memes and see if we can connect with people differently. And maybe that's, you try that on Instagram versus Facebook, and you can try out those different types of brand messaging to see what resonates with your specific audience, because every audience for every company, for every loan officer is different. So you have to figure out what works for you and your specific audience, your followers, your friends, your sphere of influence, because mine is going to be completely different from yours, which is different from Gabby's, which is different from Amy's and Sarah's and Faith's, right? So you really have to figure out what works for you specifically. And then that was a lot of information, but like it's important to think about, right? But then you can try out different offers as well, right? So maybe you want to try a free appraisal waiver or some kind of different offer and see if that moves the needle for you. But again, it's all about trying something, seeing what works, and then doubling down on the stuff that works and just removing the things that don't work. It's not a big deal if something is a complete and utter failure. you know, I have some posts sometimes that I think are going to be so amazing and offers are going to be so amazing, and they literally go nowhere. And I get so depressed and down on myself because I'm like, I thought this was the coolest thing. I spent 3 hours developing this content and it just goes nowhere. But because it didn't connect with my audience. So you just toss that out and you move on, right? Gabby, do you have something there?
Yeah, I would say that, so if any of you are familiar with the mortgage collaboratives, different social media platforms, we're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you're not following us on one of those, you absolutely should. Something that has been tried and true through the testing that I did when I first got hired on a couple of years ago is that we often talk about our TMC family. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, we're a family here and it's so close, but we really do, like, between our branding and our team and how we communicate with our members, it's very family oriented. So I have curated our social media platforms to be more reminiscent of like a family group chat, which is very celebratory and informational, but in more of like a light and fun way. So we celebrate people's birthdays and we celebrate people getting, promoted, and we celebrate integrations. And when our members and partners collaborate together, we celebrate that. So just think of that group chat that you have to silence on your phone because people are constantly putting stuff into it. Don't forget it's your cousin's birthday today. Make sure to give them a call and say hi. That's kind of the vibe that we've taken on, and it's been really effective for our audience. So it may not be effective for yours. So like Joe said, just try out a couple of different things. Think of how you would want to be spoken to if you were the customer. Be honest about how you would want to be spoken to if you were the customer, and then just see where that takes you.
That the most important thing you said there was be honest with what you would really want.
Yes.
Because I think that sometimes that is one of the hardest things, is thinking really critically about what you as someone who follows your account and who doesn't know about mortgage or doesn't think about mortgage all the time would want to hear. And that is something that people get wrong all the time. And it's easy to find once you posted something if it connects or not. But more often than not, you should think about that before you post. So that was amazing.
We actually had during our 12 days of TMC event last December. We're doing it again this year. So if you didn't get to participate last year, we'd love to have you join us this year. We had a whole session where I brought in Gen Z home buyers that knew nothing about the mortgage industry, but might have been on either their first or their second home. And they got to give everybody some insight as to, like, what do they wish they knew about, what was really confusing for them throughout the whole process. So even if it's as simple as grabbing a family member of yours who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about the industry and just putting them down in front of your page and be like, does any of this resonate with you? Does this make sense? And then just have an honest conversation with them about it. Because as somebody in the industry, there's what you wish they would respond to, the questions you wish they would ask, but then you just know that your judgment's clouded because you've already been here and you know what you're talking about. There's a whole group of people that you're trying to communicate with have no idea what LO is short for, or why a loan officer is important, or any of the numerous acronyms that I still have no idea what they mean. And I have to ask my team all the time. So yeah, like Joe said, think critically about it. Get an outside perspective.
Yeah, totally. And don't forget to involve your LOs. Like your loan officers are the feet on the street, and you can involve them in many different ways, whether it's just bring them in for a similar type of focus group so they can kind of say, here's what's working, here's what's not. So I think sometimes as marketers, we're a little too far away from what's actually happening out in the field, right? And what actually generates more business. So get them involved with your process. Invite loan officers into a marketing meeting, or get their opinion, whether that's a Google form, just a quick survey, or it's like more of a serious, like, sit down and figure out what's going on. But so use them for your experimentation, use them for their knowledge, but also use them to expand out your brand message as well and see what works for them. Like we were talking about earlier, each LO has a different audience, and each of those are unique audiences who are attracted to that specific loan officer. So they need to even experiment within their own messaging. So your brand messaging, your post cannot be a one size fits all for every single loan officer out there. If you go down that route, which I highly suggest you do, by the way, because they need to be participating in social media just as much as your company does, if not even more, because they are the whole reason why you get loans. It's not because of how cool your mortgage company is, it's because of your loan officers, right? And they can be your best brand ambassadors. They need to learn how to speak the talk that you want them to. You need to arm them as much as you can with the tools they need to be successful on there.
And Joe, we actually got a question slash
Oh,
comment from Kyle. Kyle, thank you so much for putting something out. That's something we didn't say at the beginning. If you have any questions or any comments, you can either put it into the chat or into the Q&A function, and we will broadcast those to everybody if you want us to. So Kyle said, my opinion is don't delete posts that might have negative comments, but be open and deal with it and then take it offline. Is there any circumstance when you would delete a post with a comment? So Joe, do you have
ooh.
any example?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Kyle, you're absolutely right. If there's negativity on there, like someone says they had a terrible experience or what have you, that's okay. Like I think consumers today understand that not everything can be perfect. And it's how you respond to those that really makes or breaks you, right? I would respond openly and honestly and but not defensively, right? You cannot like do not be defensive and do not go aggressive, like trying to like downplay the problem or talk bad about the individual who said something. Just simply, you can keep it very very succinct, very nice. Hey Gabby, thank you so much for your feedback. We're really sorry you had such a poor experience. Please reach out to us on DM or email here, and we can hopefully get this resurrected, this figured out for you. This is obviously not the experience we wanted you or any of our customers to have, and we're sorry that this happened to you. I think a simple apology like that it speaks volumes of your character as the individual, but also the company as a whole.
Yes, and I would say to answer your question to Kyle, is there any circumstance when you would delete a post with a comment? So definitely just play it by ear. You can't take away every negative post, but if somebody is specifically being like a troll and they're just putting stuff out there to be inflammatory, then you can take either that comment off and try to take it offline and have more of a conversation with them. And then alternatively, we're going to talk in a couple of slides about needing to be sensitive about your content, and then also aware and willing to admit when you've made a mistake, because sometimes if you could have all the best intentions, but you put something out there and it's can be misconstrued based on current events, or it's inappropriate in some way and you just didn't realize that it could be perceived as such. And then that would be a good time to decide whether you want to take that post down and make a separate post apologizing for it, or if you just want to take it away and then hope that other people don't see it. So I would just bring it maybe up with the rest of your team as to what they think the best approach would be, and just take it as they come. There's not like a one answer for all of those.
Yeah, I would just add, like, if someone is making a threat or you feel like someone's at risk of their own personal security or something like that, or somebody has said something that has super inappropriate language or is a threat or something like that, I would feel very comfortable with deleting one of those. But short of that, I don't think so. It tells a story about that person more than it does about you, right? When you have a negative comment. So I hope that's helpful, Kyle, and feel free to reach out for any other questions. I'd love to help with that. So on here, like, what are some of the platforms that are really best for targeting? And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but when we look at your brand as a whole, I think, Gabby, you said this earlier, like getting really broad with your brand messaging and talking about your company as a whole, being present on each platform is very helpful. But honestly, one of the things that you just want to make sure that you are going to do if you do go into a cross-platform brand presence, you're going to want to make sure that you have the time, the commitment to making it work, right? And that's why I put this big asterisk over here by Twitter. Like, that takes commitment beyond belief to really make an impact on it. So if you're not going to sit on Twitter all day, every day, don't do it at all. It's just not even worth your time. But Facebook through Instagram and LinkedIn, I think you have a really good opportunity there. And we've got some other platforms over here, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But if I were just starting to scale my mortgage company, I would definitely focus on these big three, and probably mostly just Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, there's definitely platforms that, so of the ones that you have currently, decide which ones are the ones that you're trying to get actual customers from, or, prospects, and try to get them into your sales funnel. And then other ones that you just have a presence on. So there's different reasons to be on different stuff. Like we have a presence on Facebook, but I'm not going to kid myself and think that we're really bringing a ton of, potential clientele in that way. And we have a presence on Instagram, which is good to have in case somebody searches for us on there, but that isn't where we're putting out our most important content. So that's just another thing to analyze and think of what would be the best for you and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have different purposes for different platforms, right? Like we have on here, what are great platforms to hire loan officers? Which ones are better to get more borrowers, right? You have to think about what is really the importance or the reason behind your post. You're not posting just to say, oh, I did social media, I can check that off my box, right? You're doing it for a specific purpose to grow, either bring more loan officers in or to get more borrowers in, right? It's something about, it's trying to expand your brand message out to do probably one of those two purposes. Or maybe hire underwriters or processors or what have you. But Facebook and LinkedIn, great grounds for people that are looking to connect and make a change to maybe join your platform. Instagram's always a little different though, because I feel like people go on there more to get entertained than anything. So it's not really a place, that loan officers are going or underwriters are going to say, oh yeah, let me go over here and find a new place to work. I think that's where, when you have your LOs on Instagram and on these other platforms, they're going to see, wow, I see so many LOs are posting from ABC Mortgage Company on Instagram. I should maybe check it out, right? But you as a company trying to do that, maybe not the best choice. But borrowers, we talked about that on an earlier slide, where they are. I think your best bet, honestly, is Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn and Twitter to a different degree. Those take a highly nuanced approach, in my opinion. LinkedIn, if you're trying to navigate those waters to get more borrowers, it can be very tricky. It's a highly educational platform on that point, and more of a personal branding from a professional standpoint for your LOs. I don't see many mortgage companies having success getting actual loans or borrowers off of LinkedIn. But Gabby, what say you?
Yeah, everything you just said. And I honestly agree with the ones that you have laid out here. It's just, especially with those, like, again, tie in those personas, communicate it with your team, try to get an honest opinion, even from somebody outside of the industry, as to where they would most like to see stuff. Like Joe said, you don't want to go on Instagram. At least when I'm spending hours scrolling through Instagram, I'm not looking for a new business to take on. But if I see someone else talking about it, I'm more likely to go and like Google it, or I'm going to look it up on LinkedIn and see what more they're about. So just there's conversation starters, and then there's conversion starters. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, that totally does. Yeah. And it literally is hours for me as well. Like on Instagram, it's a terrible disease that I have. Yeah, it is. But it's so good for you if you're a marketer and you want to get people's attention. They're on Instagram for hours, especially with Reels now. Oh my gosh, it is like, it's terrible, but
I'm
good
there
at the
to
same
watch.
time.
I'm there to watch dogs do funny things and watch makeup tutorials, and I don't even wear makeup. I just like watching other people do it.
I don't get into makeup tutorials, but love good dog name for sure. Really. But yeah, okay. But here's the deal, guys. Don't get distracted. This is a passion slide for me and probably Gabby as well. Mm-hmm. There are so many talking heads. I hear it all the time on all podcasts I listen to. Just the circles that you run in on social. Everyone's saying, here's the next big thing that you absolutely have to be on, and if you're not there, you're missing out. And I've heard that so many times throughout the years, and it's like, okay, cool, you were here, and like 6 months later you're gone. And I put a couple epic older ones on here, like this little guy. This circle one's like Amazon Alexa. 3 years ago, everyone's like, you have to be on Alexa. Like if you're not there on your daily report, people are going to listen to it and get your rates. And it's like not happening, right? Google Plus doesn't even exist today. Parlor was a hot mess where people are, and if you're into Parlor, I'm sorry if that was, I'll apologize in advance for that, personal opinions, but like, got taken off. I mean it more from like, the fact that it got taken off the App Store and Google Play because of they're having concerns around just what was being posted out there. But I saw for several months that everyone was leaving Facebook to go to Parlor, and then saying their goodbyes to Facebook, and they're still there on Facebook, still talking about it again. Google Plus isn't even around anymore. That changed completely. Everyone's talking about Clubhouse these days. But quite honestly, I feel like it's a great place to be, to learn a little bit. I don't know what staying power a lot of these different platforms have. What do you think, Gabby?
I think there's visiting, and then there's living there, and you don't want to live at any of these places because that's going to take up a lot of time and energy to make, have a real presence. But if you want to go on Reddit and onto like a relevant Reddit forum and comment and on some people's stuff about resources that you offer, then great. But do you want to have try to set up an entire account or make sure that you do that every single day? Maybe not so much. Same thing with TikTok. It's really fun and it can be really informative. I actually know of a loan officer who's talked with me about how he makes TikTok and videos on Instagram, but that's, the loan officer versus like our company page. How many people are realistically going to go on and try to follow you if they've never heard of you, or if that's just not the audience that you're necessarily trying to get. So concentrate on where your audience is, and you can visit where your audience might be just to have a presence there. But, don't spend too much time on it. And then if you have, higher ups telling you like, we have to have a presence on these specific formats, just tell them to give it some time and see if it blows over. And if it becomes the next Facebook or Instagram, then absolutely you should dedicate some of your bandwidth to that. But just play it by ear, please.
Play it by ear. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth, we talked earlier in the experimentation slide, like it's worth trying it out, right? Give it a little shot, see what you think, like give it a couple weeks, and if it makes something, then it's great. If not, then you move on. And like any business, it could take months for you to take off there. But I think it's like you say, Gabby, visit it, enjoy it, but don't waste a lot of time and money on unproven platforms, right? Stick to what works for you, and it'll pay off in dividends, especially when you're just starting to scale. I think it's really important to show the executive team and your loan officers that things are working, and that what you're doing is actually adding value. And social media is a very long-term play. It's not something that you're going to have overnight results with, but you're definitely not going to have overnight results with these, with a new untested platform. But you can have earlier success on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Like you will have success on those platforms in a shorter amount of time than you will on, say, TikTok or one of these other ones, on Clubhouse or what have you. So it's definitely important to try. It's definitely important to test. But if you're looking, it just depends on what you want to do, right?
And how many people you have to dedicate to it. It could be someone's whole job just to try new ones. But if you're a one-person marketing team and you only have so many things to dedicate your time to, then just choose carefully.
That's a huge point too. I didn't even consider that. Like the size of your marketing team will determine where you are going to spend your time. Because if you only have one or two people, you can't even go on all these platforms. Like focus your efforts, focus your time where you can see results, and then go from there as you can prove that works and hire more people. That was awesome. Yeah, this one I'll just say, make sure you're integrating social media into your overall marketing plan. If it's not on your plan today, it needs to be. You're late to the game already. I'll say it again. If social media is not on your plan, you're late to the game. You're missing out on business. You're missing out on a major opportunity here. But if it's already part of your plan, make sure you're integrating it into your overall strategy, whether that's email, in-person meetings, mailers, what have you. Like it's all one thing. Don't segment out, one of these or the other. Like have an overall strategy of how you want to grow your marketing efforts via your loan officers and via your corporate accounts, and make sure that it's all one strategic move here.
And I don't have anything to add to that. I just agree with everything you said.
Just Yeah, don't silo these out. It's all one plan.
Yeah.
Marketing is marketing, and social media is a part of your marketing plan. Yeah. And then your LO battalion. This is, I don't know if battalion even resonates with people. I love that word. I think it's
I do
it's really
too.
great because, you have like, this is your frontline workers, and they are how you get your business today. And I think a lot of companies now are realizing that we need to help our loan officers compete in this very busy world of social media, and especially in the past year and a half, where we have had our traditional methods of marketing stripped away from us, and now people's cultures and our tendencies and what we want to do are completely different, and they probably are going to remain different from what we were doing in the past. We have to be utilizing different marketing techniques to get more loans in. And you think about how many people you can reach at a networking event in one day, and how many people that you can reach via one social media post. That could be thousands of people with one post. So your time to results on social media are, as far as getting your message out and being visible, are significantly higher online than they would be with your traditional methods. And then, when I think about your social presence, and if it's just your company tiptoeing on some social media posts from your corporate account, like, you're doing it wrong. You need to be thinking about, how do I enable my loan officers to A, spread my brand message, B, help them grow their own personal brand, and C, make it stupid simple and easy for them to do it.
And the way that, oops, I had muted myself. The way that I've done it with my team in the past, and it's kind of a struggle again with bandwidth, is I've literally laid out, here's a graphic, and here is a link, and here is some suggested copy, but you can put your own spin on it and just go nuts. And everybody on our team, we have about like 10 to 12 people who are working on stuff on LinkedIn and just are kind of on the grounds for our ops team at any given point. They've made it a point to make more of a presence on LinkedIn. Again, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I don't really have mortgage experience outside of this role. So I didn't have a super hyper connected LinkedIn group to market the stuff to, but they do. So if I were to make a post, it wouldn't be hitting the right people. But if they make a post and they tag the Mortgage Collaborative in it, then that means that there's going to be all of those people who this would actually be relevant to, who are going to see this content. And then, even if they only get a couple of likes, that's a few more people than you would have gotten if you just posted to your company page.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's really, if you think about who do you want to target with, to get more loans from, it's the people that know your loan officers, right? Like, that's where you want to go. So Gabby, from the TMC methodology standpoint, you want your network, the people inside of the TMC, to be able to get the people that they already know to recognize you, and to get their like sphere of influence to come into the family here, into the network. And then as a mortgage company, you going out to the market and saying, hey, we're ABC Mortgage or ABC Bank, that's one thing. But say from a loan officer, hey, I'm a part of ABC Mortgage, and by the way, here's an educational piece, or here's something funny, or what have you, like, that is much more recognizable and is getting a lot quicker to the people that are actually going to do the loan. So unless you're a direct to consumer brand, right? And that's something completely different here. There are a few of you out there who are direct to consumer, and that's a whole different ball game, and we could talk about that on a whole other strategy call sometime. But yeah, and just a quick shameless plug for Social Coach here too. This is like literally what we do, is help you get your brand message out to your loan officers and help make it easy for them to post on social media. But I'm, as you can tell, I'm a little passionate about this one. But staying relevant, Gabby, lead us off with this, because I know you've got a lot of really good thoughts on staying relative and sensitive on social media.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, you want to be aware of what's happening within your industry, absolutely, and what are some hot topics. And there's a couple different ways that you could get that information: by surveying people or just having conversations, just seeing what people are posting about. And then there's, of course, websites where you could literally just go up and see like what people are talking about the most. But you also want to be aware of what's happening culturally and around the world. You need to make sure that your upcoming posts are there's a good mix of being proactive and reactive to things. Sometimes it's important that you say particular things as a company to align with your brand. And other times it's really important that you don't say anything in regards to something because it's going to be inflammatory. So just be mindful of everything that's happening, stay plugged into what's going on both in and outside of the industry, and you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache and pain.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that too, the other side of that is just remaining sensitive and taking a stand on what's going on in the world, right? And this is like one of those really sensitive topics to be talking about. And you can tell from some of these images, we're talking about wars, there's a lot of different struggles going on in the world, and different social justice actions that are happening. And as a brand or as a company, sometimes you can't stay silent on these things, or else it's going to be negative impact into your world, into your business. And so being thoughtful about it, making a timely post about what's happening, but being ultimately super sensitive to all sides, because there is always two sides to a story, right? And your audience is probably split on every hot topic in the world today. So try not to take a stand on anything, other than just being just generous, gracious, and showing a lot of love, I think, are really important. But sometimes saying nothing is worse than saying something.
Well, then alternatively, you just have to, again, you have to talk with your team and you have to kind of make a decision across the board, because sometimes if you say something, people, especially in the time of COVID, have nothing to do but just dig up stuff online and try to counter any point that you make. So especially if you're trying to post things about inclusivity and diversity, but you don't have that as a strong focus in your company, they will find it, they will point it out, and it is publicly aired out in front of everyone. So there's a time and a place where you absolutely should say things. And then there's also going to be times where it's just better to let things go. It's going to be a lot less complicated. But if it's a part of your brand, you absolutely should take a stand on things, and other times it's just better to stay quiet. So as always, and Faith had just mentioned now in the chat, she said not responding is sometimes as good of a response as you're going to get. So just think
Absolutely.
critically about all of those aspects.
Think critically and make a decision on what you want to do. And I think a lot of times even having a task force pre-identified to have a response, including your CEO, your head of marketing, maybe head of production, and talking about these things in a timely manner is really, really important.
Oh yeah.
So you got to talk about it. Don't just like cover your ears and pretend like nothing's happening. Because like you say, like Gabby, they will see it and they will find you and they will kill you for it. So you got to be careful. And sometimes this is this situation too, where it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, but you got to do something. So make a decision. Last thing I'll say here is I just, wanted to offer anybody who's on this call or is, listening till later, if you're interested in talking more about this, happy to, as someone who is personally ingrained in social media every single day, we're happy to do a free consultation with you, for an hour or more, talking through where you're at today, where you want to go, and anything else you want to discuss. We're happy to just talk about it. It's a passion of mine, and it'd be just fun. So if you're on this call and you would like one, feel free to hit, in the chat here, say I'm interested, or raise your hand, or give us your email. You can also reach out to me personally, joe@socialcoach.io, not .com. I'm happy to help anytime. And then of course, if you do want to learn more about Social Coach, we can also have a discussion, but it's not required, and I will not be pushy, I promise. I just want to help, as a member of this wonderful TMC family, feel like it's a personal responsibility to just help raise us all, because all boats rise with the tide, right? So if we're all getting better at social media, everything gets better. So we're literally here to help, and I'm sure Gabby, you feel the same way. So.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So anytime anybody has any questions, you could either email me, you can email your member benefits advocate. They can direct you to the best resource. Or if you are a member, you also have access to Ask TMC, which is our kind of message board in which you can pick the brain of all the other lender members that are on there. So if you have a specific social media question or anything in regards to how you do business, you can always access them there. And sorry, Joe, but it is a lender member exclusive, no preferred
We're
partners
good.
allowed. But then we do also have a working group for marketing professionals that does include preferred partners. So lender members, preferred partners can hop on. It's a roundtable discussion. We do them bi-monthly, and we would just love to have all of you be more involved with our TMC family and let us know how we can help you do that.
I will say just a quick plug for those marketing working groups. They are fantastic. Gabby, you and your team do such an amazing job at those, and I find them personally really helpful for my business, and I know that many members do as well. So thank you for having those and making that a big part of the TMC.
Yes.
So by the way, guys, here's just a couple of resources that we have. The last thing I'll just say here, we've got this brand activism on social media. That was 2 slides ago. We were talking about being sensitive to what's going on in the world. There's a really helpful article. So we will send this out to everybody, but there's a really, really important article for you to read about how to respond to what's happening in the world based on anything and how to make a response team and things like that. So definitely look at these resources, see if there's anything that is helpful for you, and shout out us if you need anything.
Yes, and I'll be sending this out. Our team will be sending it out in an email. We'll have the recording. We will have this in a podcast format in case you want to share it to someone to listen. We'll also make sure to share all of the resources and a way to contact Joe. And Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing all this amazing information. I know we already went through it, but I feel like I learned so much more even just in this conversation. Just getting to listen to you.
Same.
So, thanks.
Well, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.